All right, y'all, so let's talk about this border bill chaos that's currently unfolding. I don't know if I've ever seen a situation where there's been more lies told about a piece of legislation than what we're witnessing right now. So, first of all, let me start with this. I'm going to give you the specifics of the border deal in a second. But first, let me get to the different factions that exist around this bill, okay? So, you have the Republicans had a meeting the other day, and reporters say that they were just outside of the room, and they heard people screaming at the top of their lungs at each other. They were, like, ripping each other apart over this piece of legislation. Now, why is that? Well, very simply, you know, it's a sort of a unanimous opinion that, hey, the border's kind of broken, there's a lot of problems, we have this giant flow of migrants, we have this crisis, cities are overburdened, they can't really handle it, somebody has to do something. So, you had a bipartisan group of senators, Democrats and Republicans, get together and say, all right, let's do something to try to address this. Let's talk it out. You know, we'll take some of your ideas, you take some of my ideas, let's get something we can all agree on. This is like old school, how the process used to work. Bipartisan legislation, negotiation, compromise, like we're going to figure this thing out. So this group of Republicans and Democrats got together. Now, ultimately what happened? The Democrats gave the Republicans everything they wanted. Over 90% of what they wanted, the Democrats said, no problem. Now, why is that? Well, the answer is very simple. The thing that Democrats care most about and what they desperately want in this bill is Ukraine funding, some Taiwan funding, and Israel funding. And so that's the piece that the Democratic senators cared most about. And so they're like, this is our portion of the bill. Now, on border security, it used to be the negotiations would go something like this. Yes, we'll give you very restrictionist policies, you know, more border protection, things of that nature. But in return for that, we want a path to citizenship for, you know, people who are already in this country and have been here for a while and are working and not criminals, etc. That's the way these negotiations used to go. Okay, yes, we'll crack down on the border, we'll be restrictionist, we'll do more border patrol agents, we'll deport more, etc., but the people who are here, who are not a problem to anybody, who are working and just living a normal American life, let's have a path to citizenship for those people. In this round of negotiations, that is totally off the table. Nobody brought it up. Nobody on the Democratic side said, here's what we want vis-a-vis the border. On the border, they're like, hey, we'll just give you whatever the hell you want if in return you give us Israel funding, Ukraine funding, and some Taiwan funding. The biggest thing the Democrats care about is the Ukraine funding. So they're like, we'll just give you whatever you want on the border. So you had these negotiations, you had these very conservative Republican senators who came out of it and said, hey, massive W, bro. We got everything we wanted on the border. You know, James Lankford, super conservative Republican. I think he's from Wyoming. Correct me if I'm wrong. He came out and he's like, we negotiated it. It's the most restrictionist bill, the most conservative border bill we've had in decades in this country. Okay. So I tell you all that to set this up. Donald Trump comes out the other day at one of his rallies, and he says, I'm against this. Okay, well, why? Why are you against it? Because he's I'm a hardline anti-immigration person. Okay, well, that's what this bill is, so why would you be against it? It's not a secret. He's against it because he feels like this will be a giant win for Joe Biden, so I want to block a win for Joe Biden, so that's why I'm against it. So Trump comes out, says he's against it, gives his marching orders. The MAGA caucus in the House, led by the new speaker, Mike Johnson, comes out and says, we're against this too. Now, okay. Now you know the dynamic. But here's where the real problems begin. Then the whole MAGA caucus just starts lying about the bill. Like every single word they say is an outright lie about the bill. Now, I would be kind and say, they're just misstating it, they don't know, it's misinformation, etc. No, they know, and it is absolute lies. It is lie after lie after lie that they tell to try to argue, well, actually, this is an open borders bill. It's actually a super left-wing border. It's basically open borders. They want open borders. That's what this bill does. It gives them open borders. And you have guys like James Lankford, who negotiated this bill and got super right-wing policies. He's like, what the fuck, man? No, you're throwing me under the bus here, too. That's just wrong. A lot of people didn't even read the bill, and they come out and they're, I'm against this. Did you read the bill? No, but I'm against it. The real reason they're against it is because they're trying to appease their daddy, overlord, emperor, god, king, Trump, because they want to stay in his good graces. Okay, so that's where all the screaming came from. You have people like James Lankford, who's like, what the fuck? You guys are just wrong about this bill. okay, if you say it's a good bill, but I don't want to do it because I want to hurt Biden, this would be a win for Biden. Okay, but say that. They're not saying that. Oh, that's open borders. Okay, so now let's get to the substance of it. What is actually in the bill? Well, here we go. No amnesty or legalization of anyone already in the U.S. illegally. Right off the bat, massive, massive W for the far right on immigration. Funds an increase in ICE detention capacity to approximately 50,000 from the current 34,000. Again, massive W for the very conservative folks on the border. At 7-day rolling average of 5,000 encounters per day, or 8,500 encounters in a single day, the Department of Homeland Security is required to shut the border down and turn away anyone who crosses. No new asylum claims will be allowed, and anybody crossing will be removed. Would end the whole idea of, I made it to U.S. soil, you have to process me. That would be over. Border Patrol would not process the illegal crosser, and they would be removed. No asylum claim permitted unless it's made at a port of entry. This does not mean 5,000 are allowed in before this authority kicks in. Single adults would be detained. Families would be released via ATD, alternatives to detention, and asylum cases would be fast-tracked to months rather than years under a new rapid expedited expulsion system. Those who fail would be quickly removed from the U.S. Those who initially pass would be released with work authorization and 90-day supervision until final asylum claim is determined. The shutdown authority doesn't drop until crossings decrease significantly in the days following the shutdown. Significantly tougher asylum requirements and a higher credible fear standard, including 3 bars to eligibility. 1, criminal history. 2, could they have resettled in another country on the way to the U.S.? 3, could they have resettled somewhere else in their own country? Just saying you're scared to return home will no longer be enough to initial interview. Would be enough in an initial interview. It appears that the legislation would move asylum claim decisions away from immigration judges and instead have them be handled by USCIS. $1.4 billion in FEMA funding available for disbursement to NGOs and municipalities, but some of that money doesn't unlock until key border security metrics are hit with ICE detention beds, ICE and Border Patrol new hires, and at least 1,500 deportation flights. Ends use of parole releases via Customs and Border Patrol One app and ends parole for illegal crossers between ports of entry. Keeps humanitarian parole as it was originally intended, medical procedures, court cases, etc., and keeps the current Biden administration parole program in place for Cubans, Haitians, Venezuelans, and Nicaraguans. 50,000 new visas over 5 years. Funding to hire hundreds more ICE deportation officers, Border Patrol agents, and USCIS asylum officers, and greatly increased number of deportation flights. No unaccompanied minors can be removed, and some of these minors will receive attorneys, either pro bono or taxpayer funded. Ends some catch and release, but not all, families and unaccompanied minors not detained. DHS will have 90 days to set this new system up before it takes effect. There's a provision in the bill that would allow the president to suspend the shutdown authority. It says authorizes the president to suspend the border emergency on an emergency basis for up to 45 days if it is in the national interest. The border has seen at least 5,000 encounters almost every single day the last couple of years under Biden. If this bill were signed into law, the border would likely be shut down on the first day it takes effect. Fox is told by architects of this legislation, the status quo right now is when the border is overwhelmed, release everyone. They say this bill switches that to when the border is overwhelmed, remove everyone. This legislation has provisions in it that will upset border hawks and immigration activists at the same time. Now we wait to see how both Democrats and Republicans respond. So far, many House GOP members have expressed displeasure, and at least one Democrat, Senator Padilla, has as well. Okay, so the bottom line is this. In its totality, I just gave you virtually every provision in the bill. In its totality, very, very conservative bill. And you have to understand, when they talk about the encounters, what they're talking about is once you get over the 5,000 encounters per day, there is no more due process. Due process is over. You're just immediately kicked out, no questions asked. Now, I don't even know if that's constitutional. I don't know if that's legal under U.S. law or international law. I think if the courts were being honest and that got to them, they would say, you can't just overrule due process. Like, the whole point of civilized societies is that we're supposed to have due process, right? So I don't even know if that's allowed. But that's what they're trying to do here. So it's not like 5,000 are immediately released. No. 5,000, there will be a decision made on those 5,000. Some are detained. Some will just be kicked out after going through a process. But what they're saying is after 5,000 a day, everybody's immediately kicked out, period, right? No due process. And so this is a super conservative border bill. So conservative. You know who came out in favor of it? the Border Patrol Union and every single, like, Border Patrol right-wing group has said, yeah, we support this. So, look, what happened here? What's going down here? It's very simple. This is exactly what we saw during the Obama years. President Obama comes out and says, here, I'm going to put on the table cuts to Social Security and Medicare. I'm going to put cuts to Social Security and Medicare on the table. And you had the Tea Party people at the time, the far right-wing caucus at the time. They said, no, we want more cuts to Social Security and Medicare. And because the far right was so intransigent, they blew up the whole thing and we didn't get any cuts to Social Security or Medicare. Obamacare, same thing. Barack Obama comes out. Here's my proposal. It is a bill originally from the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank, which is a healthcare reform, which is an individual mandate system, meaning you have to buy from private insurance companies. Well, that was their idea, the Republican idea. So then the Republican said, I know you just proposed our idea. Now I'm against it. And my ideal system is, as Alan Grayson famously said, don't get sick, and if you get sick, die quickly. We're going to do nothing with the healthcare system. Don't care that healthcare bills are the number one cause of bankruptcy. Don't care about the 17,000 ways the system is totally broken. Don't care. We're in favor of absolutely nothing. So the Democrats move to the right, and then the Republicans go, we're going so insanely far right that we're not even on the spectrum anymore. We're not even in the conversation anymore. We're barely a political party or a group. We're just out to lunch, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. Joe Biden's going, I'll give you guys literally everything you want. He puts that on the table, and then they go, no, we're against it. And it's like, okay, why? Then they just lie. This is open borders. It's the same way they lied about Obamacare. This is socialized healthcare. It's not. I wish it was, but it's not, right? Same thing here. This is open borders. No, it's not. It's a super right-wing bill. That you guys are, you know who else came out in favor of this, by the way? The Wall Street Journal op-ed page. The most conservative op-ed page in the country. They said very simply, look, Republicans are getting exactly what they want, and now they're saying we don't want the thing we said we wanted. Okay, so you ready for my conclusion at the end of this? I don't think this is going to surprise you guys, but I'll tell you what my takeaway is. We have a weird situation here where it's a total horseshoe theory situation where the Republicans went so far right that they ended up back on the left. So they're killing this very conservative border deal, to which I say, good, I would vote against it too. Now, why would I vote against it? Because you can't just decide, due process, that's not a thing. We're going to get rid of it. It's fine. We're not going to hear, I don't care if you have the world's best example of an asylum case. I don't care. You know, you're starving in your country, there's a famine in your country, there's political instability, a drug cartel has a hit out on you, and you need to protect yourself and your 3-year-old kid, right? I don't care if you have the best story in the world, which proves that you should have a safe haven, and you should be able to start a new life and work hard in this country. I don't care. I'm dismissing it completely, out of hand. Not even going to listen, not even going to hear you out, not even going to give you your day in court. You're just gone. Go back and die. I hope the drug cartel shoots you in between the eyes. I'm not okay with that. Look, I'm not an open borders guy. I think any country can have a border and they can govern it as they see fit and come up with the rules and regulations as they see fit. I would have a border, but I would have intelligent, smart rules and regulations that are humanitarian and sane and process the claims in a reasonably quick manner to the point where it's like, okay, this person's able to stay and they're going to live the American dream and they're going to work hard and they're going to pay their taxes, etc. And this person, well, they have 3 violent felonies on their record. They can't stay. They can get kicked out, right? But one thing I will not abide is the idea, due process, schmoo process. We don't believe in that anymore. Get rid of it. So in a hilariously weird roundabout way, I think the far right is correct to vote against this. Again, to be clear, they're not right on the substance. They just lie about the bill and say, it's an open borders bill, even though it's the exact opposite of that, right? But they ended up accidentally on the correct side of it. Because you can't just, I'm not okay with saying, we're not even going to hear out your asylum claim. You know, I'm absolutely fine with, you want to send down, more border patrol. The real thing is you need you need the immigration judges to process the claims in a faster manner, right? You definitely need more facilities. You definitely need more border patrol. But the immigration judges are the biggest thing. You need so many more immigration judges to process the claims and, like, get this thing moving along here, right? But again, the far right ended up accidentally on the correct side of this because they are voting against everything they said they wanted, right? And so I was never for the things that they wanted in the first place. So I say, great, thank you. But let's make no mistake about it. Again, this just goes to show you how warped our political system is, where the Democrats have moved further and further to the right, and the Republicans have moved off the fucking spectrum, where now you give them exactly what they say they want, and they're like, no, I'm against it. And in this scenario, we all lose, man. We all lose. But look, the biggest takeaway from this that I need all you guys to understand is when you hear all the chirping and all the arguing and all the back and forth among all these idiots in DC and among the pundit class, do yourself a favor. Go to the actual facts of the matter. So that's why I took the time to go through the different provisions with you, so that you understand exactly what's in the bill, and then you make up your own decision on it, right? But definitely don't just listen to the people talking about what they think is in the bill, because most of them don't even fucking know. Most of them don't even know. They're parroting what they heard Donald Trump say because they're a Republican and they want to coddle his nutsack, right? You know, on the Democratic side, it's, well, Biden made the deal, so we're just going to support it because Biden's Biden and that's our guy, right? So go to the actual policies and then make your own mind up, right? But there you have it. This is an absolutely wild, wild scenario. It reminds me of the grand bargain with cutting Social Security and Medicare. It's just like that. It's just like the Obamacare negotiations. Now we're seeing the exact same version of that on healthcare. And, oh, final point. This is actually more important, right? The other thing is, even if there was an immigration part of this bill that I could get on board with, even if there was something that I thought was a constructive way to fix what's happening at the border, I still would vote against it. Why? Because it includes $17 billion or $13 billion more for Israel. They are in the midst of doing a genocide that we are funding and we are arming. I don't want to have that on my conscience. I don't want to fund a genocide. I want to do the opposite. I want to sanction their ass to stop them from doing a genocide. So I would never support this bill. Even if it had the perfect immigration reform in there, I still would be against it because I don't want to fund a genocide, which should be the most obvious thing of all time. But anyway, there you have it. Everybody has lost their goddamn minds. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.